If you have ever thought about buying or building a yurt, dome, tent, unique cabin, A-frame, tiny home, or anything in between, and starting a unique short-term rental business or a glamping business for short, then today's conversation is going to be very helpful for you. In today's conversation, my friend Garrett teaches us how he got 80% occupancy rate for his luxury dome and mirror tiny home. He just started his business and it has been off to the races. He's going to teach us how we can emulate his success and literally make more money. Think about it. What is your nightly rate? $100, $150, $200. Now 80% occupancy rate within a 30-day window. That's some serious change. And we're not talking pie in the sky type of stuff. He maps us through every one of his marketing and sales tactics so that way you can implement it at home. I mean, like, how to make more money, how to get repeat guests, how to overall market your business, how to get 10,000 subscribers on Instagram and TikTok within 30 days, how to work with influencers, and everything in between. All I ask for you is to continue to support the channel. It really helps me continue to get industry experts to come here and tell their secrets on my platform. If you're on YouTube, give the video a thumbs up. Leave a comment saying anything. It really helped me beat the algorithm. And don't forget, I have a secret podcast that you can find anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. Just search for the Keep It Tiny podcast. There are also audio exclusives on there that will never be here on YouTube. So if you're not checking that out, you're missing out on a lot of content, knowledge, and information.
So I thought I was going to talk to you just about the dome, but as I asked you a question, you had a plural. So it sounds like you have more than one glamp site going. So can you let us know, because you just started your glamp site, you just started your glamping business, you're extremely knowledgeable in how to do it. But I love catching people like at the very beginning. So you just built your dome and it sounds like you have more. So could you give me like a top down view of what you have going on?
Sure. So with the dome so far is definitely our kind of crown jewel at the moment. But I also, when I got the property, I can't remember if we even mentioned this last time, but one of the ways I was able to get the land was I used a 5% owner occupied loan on the actual house that's on the land. I have a ranch house. Now we've fitted out, themed. It's not necessarily the full glamping experience that we provide with the dome and our next couple sites that we're in the process of building right now. But the house as well has really added to my equity value, but then it's also been renting out tremendously as well. So we've been running both of those together. We're also in the process of our third site. The dome, we launched right around May 1st. We've been, I think May we were 80% occupancy, and then June we got up to about 95% occupancy, where I had to actually block off dates just to go in and check maintenance and small things like that. So it was kind of a wild problem to actually have, that I need to block off dates just so I can go and make sure everything's okay all the way. But it's been going great. The house is, now we just got the house up as well, and it's been renting about 60 to 70% occupancy this month. And then at the same time, we also have got our commercial permit for our third more traditional glamping style site on the property as well, which is going to be an all mirror or glass kind of cabin as well. So we've got a partnership. We got a partnership with a company from Europe, and we've just kind of been expanding through that, and we really are enjoying the process. All great guest feedback. There's been some small nuanced things we've had to learn, especially being in Texas with this heat dome sitting over us right now, having, record breaking temperatures and things, but we've adapted, and we've had little things and little fixes that have made the guest stay immaculate. And I think we've had all 5-star reviews. We just got superhost status in the first month on Airbnb, and yeah, it's been going great. We're really excited. There's been some small things as always, plumbing back up in the main house, and a tree root growing through a septic line we're dealing with now, but it's kind of just part of the business, and we knew going into that, and that's why you have insurance too. So we're kind of just moving along. It's been really good.
I think that's really cool. And it's awesome just because a lot of the times when I talk to people, they are either surprised or they knew it was going to happen, but the fact that they get booked out so fast, it's almost like if you build it, they will come type of thing. Can you tell me, were you expect, I think you definitely know what you're doing. So I know you were expecting success, but were you expecting to hit the ground running so fast that you were like 80% occupied and having to like slow people down the first month out of the gate?
No, I mean, that actually was, I mean, we were trying to be conservative with our numbers when we were running a lot, and we were in the 60%, low 50s, and maybe we'll hit 70%. And just with the mix of our social media marketing knowledge, and our, partnering with some influencers and other things like that, we've had a tremendous amount of feedback, and we really have definitely crushed our numbers for what we were hoping for. So it's definitely been a blessing and all of that. But we've also, we spent a lot of time learning the social media marketing. Even in June, when we started off in May, our bookings were about, I think, 70% Airbnb, 20% direct, and then like we had one or two off a hip camp. So in June, we actually went to a more direct booking model where we were about 80% direct bookings through all of our social media marketing. We have a Facebook ad and a Facebook copy that we put together that has just been absolutely crushing it, especially for the prices we're getting. We're only about $7 a day. We were at about $20 a day budget on Facebook. We have Google ads and we've done a lot of different things, but without a doubt, Facebook ads have been our extreme key to success, and we're getting a really tremendous return on that for just really a low cost. And that 3% that Airbnb would take, we pretty much have just mitigated that to put into a marketing budget. And now we're able to get these contacts. We're able to get the information and emails. We're able to control the reviews of, like we're not at beck and call of Airbnb shutting our platform down for any reason. So it's been a really positive experience. I'm really excited for the direct booking model, because I think that's the wave, especially for people trying to, if you have one or two properties, it's not necessarily an essential thing, but we're wanting to get to those, 10, 15, 20 properties, and the direct booking model is going to allow us to scale and really, really, tap in with our customer base to remarket all these new sites we're having, and send out discount codes for, great stays. And we've had at least 2 or 3 people already rebook in just a month after they've already booked. But we're able to, communicate with our guests in a way better experience when we control the actual guest data, as opposed to relying on Airbnb and Vrbo and them to, give us those leads. So we've kind of took it back into our own control.
Amazing. I mean, there's so much that I can go with that. Prior to starting my channel, I was the director of digital marketing at a tech startup. So you kind of just took me back with all of that. I agree with you that in terms of like launching paid campaigns, Facebook early on, it's just like you'll get an amazing ROI on that. But can you talk to me about the importance of not being over reliant on the Airbnbs and the VRBOs? Because I'll be honest with you, the advice that I normally give people, because sometimes I do one-on-one coaching, and I'll just tell them, hey, look, just focus on launching, put it on Airbnb, good things will happen. That advice is caveated with, in the future, you want to start looking into doing your own thing. It seems like you've already gone straight to that. So can you tell me about the importance of it, as well as why did you decide to go straight for the throat, really?
Really. So all that is absolutely great advice too. And when I was kind of really starting my research and really getting things going, I talked to a lot of people, and they would just do that, where especially if you have a unique enough site, you can put it on Airbnb and Vrbo and kind of do some small things and get a pretty good amount of bookings. But we knew that, because I have a marketing background as well from music marketing. So I knew that capturing the guest information is so critical to be able to remarket and retarget. And I also know how powerful Facebook and Facebook Pixel were for being able to get, to people that you would never be able to expect. And I also think that's where a lot of glamping site owners and short-term rental owners do fall a little short in this, somewhat oversaturated market in some areas, is they think that if, that they don't realize that sometimes you're going to have to find that extra outreach to people to really bring them to your site. Because a lot of people may want to come to your site and may just not know about it. And it's something that it's kind of an out of sight, out of mind thing. So if you're planning on 1 or 2 smaller operations and you don't want to get into the whole website and all this extra things like that, or learn the marketing side, which I don't necessarily recommend going that route, because even for 1 or 2, like learning just the basics of some social media marketing and ad campaigns and things like that, taking some Google classes and things, it's going to drastically increase your ROI. But I went straight for the throat because I use Logify as my property management system. I went through different ones, tried out different ones, and I went with them for a few different reasons, because I like the layout. I like the ability to use different things. And they also have their own website builder within that was pretty easy to use. It wasn't more expensive than the property management software you're already using. And they have a lot of templates. And I was able to get it kind of going without, I'm not a website developer or anything like that. So I was able to get a pretty nice website to start up. And I really just wanted to give it a shot. I knew that the benefits of having that, being able to get the guest information, and I knew I was going to want to run ads, and I wasn't going to want to pay this money and then send them over to Airbnb and not be able to collect the information, which, building that traction to the Airbnb profile definitely will help you, and Airbnb algorithm will kind of see that you're bringing in more to it, to their links outside. And so I'm sure they give you a little bit of a boost in their algorithm when the more eyeballs you have coming onto their platform from a different platform. But in the end, how easy it was to set up on Logify, there was no downside to me, because they have everything covered. You can do different, guest insurance things where they'll check the IDs before they get in. And there's things like Superhog, and there's check-in that will give you that extra verification that Airbnb does. They take all the payment methods directly on there. So it was a pretty straightforward thing. And in the end, once I get a few more sites, I probably will have a web developer maybe develop a better site, one, just more streamlined and, real professional. But right now, just when I was getting started, I knew it was it wasn't much cost just to get it going, because I was using Logify. And there's others like Boostly, and I know there's some other ones that kind of do the direct booking models with short-term rental sites as well. And so they're all great options. And if it's something that intimidates you, I agree with you completely. Like, get it launched, get it going, learn how to interact with guests, learn how Airbnb works, learn how to deal with bookings, learn how to deal with your cleaners. All those type of interactions are super critical. And if you're nervous about the expansion of it, then take it one step at a time, like you're recommending, because that you don't want to bite off more than you chew early on, because you'll get very, very intimidated and overwhelmed when you don't really need to be. So I follow your advice on that for sure. But if you feel a little more comfortable, when you get ready to do that direct booking site, if you have a basic knowledge of some Facebook ads, some Google campaigns, your ROI is going to be tremendous getting back. And then you'll really be able to build as you go on your database to keep expanding, remarket. You add sites, or you change up your site a little bit, or send discount codes when it's a little slower. Things like that that's not as much of an option on Airbnb. You can have contacts with the guests on Airbnb, and you can message them and some other ways to get in contact with them. But I have a full database now that goes directly to my email marketing campaign. Anytime anybody signs up or even reaches out for a question, I have a newsletter they can subscribe to, and I'm just capturing all these data points that I can of people. That way, like when I'm launching my mirror house in August, instantly can send them a free booking direct line, and get funds that way, and all types of other options that wouldn't really be available if I was just doing strictly Airbnb to begin with. But there is a learning curve to it, and I've learned a lot of those things over years. So I could see where it's intimidating for people that haven't necessarily gone that route. So I would recommend them researching some of that just to get comfortable with it, but just get it launched and get it going, and make sure you're learning how to interact with guests and the hospitality business itself.
I think that's awesome, because you're not only giving people advice on like, hey, this is a good thing to do, which I think a lot of people do. But on my channel, I like to actually give them actionable advice. So you should do your own marketing after your Glamp site gets going. After you've done like Glamping 101, which is setting up the Glamp site and also learning how to interact with guests and all that, then like it's 102 is going off to the races, and you're saying, hey, we all know we should do this, and you're giving advice, which is Logify, which is a tool for that. And I'm familiar with tools such as that, and also how what you're saying is true. Like, it is very easy for, like, a lot of it is drag and drop, clicking here, clicking there. And next thing you know, your website is up and running, and it's just like, just upload a picture, and they like make it all nice for you. And on top of that, it also helps with the booking, and it takes the transactions and does all of that. So I think that's really cool. I haven't used Logify myself. Can you let us know if Logify can send emails? Like, you talked about different types of remarketing. Can you talk about, first off, can you let us know what remarketing and retargeting is? And then can you say like how you're using it?
Sure. So And in my viewpoint, remarketing and retargeting are kind of similar and kind of different. Remarketing, so within Logify, you're able to set up custom automatic messages, for an example. So I have a message that goes out, once they book, it will give them like my guidebook. I also made a small walkthrough video YouTube tour that has been really helpful for a lot of people where hey, this is how you operate the hot tub. This is how you turn on the grill. It's a 10-minute video, but it's very, it just gives people one, it introduces me and gives them an idea of the space and, who they're going to be dealing with, or my team and things like that. But then it also gives them as they go into the space, they're a little more familiar with what's going on. So I also have another automatic email that, the night they get there, it sends them an email at 7 o'clock saying, hey, how was check-in? Was everything good? Do you need anything? And then the day they leave, or it sends them a message of, hey, would you review us on Airbnb, or would you review us on Google? Then 14 days later, I also send them a family and friends discount code for 10% for thanks for staying with us. And this is kind of my idea of remarketing. I can send this automatic message at any time. And I'm also capturing their emails that I can put them on an email campaign drip where I send them, an email once a month giving updates on my property, what we're working on. And you're able to see the percentages of that. And then that's kind of my remarketing tools. And Logify has a lot of those. MailChimp is what I use for my email marketing. They work seamlessly together too. And then for retargeting, I kind of consider that more with the Google or Facebook pixels, which is kind of, there's a tracking, trying to put this in, I guess, like layman's terms of sorts. There's a tracking measure on my website that is from Facebook. It's a little simple code that you put in. I can put it in directly in Logify. And what this does, this is how when people will go to a website one time and then they get back on Instagram, Facebook, or something like that, and they can't get away from that website advertising anymore. That's pretty much what the Facebook pixel does. And so I have in my Facebook ads, for example, I have one that is a little more broad, trying to capture people in, getting them to my direct site. And once they click on it and go there, I have a stronger retarget campaign that uses that Facebook pixel that knows who went to my site, and then it sends them new ads when they're on Facebook or Instagram. And this is one of those situations where people don't usually book the first time they go to your direct site. They kind of, especially if it's something new, they're like, oh, okay, this is cool. And maybe I'll do it later. And they kind of forget about it. Well, when people forget about it, they're never going to book most likely. And you don't know who was on your site. But that fake Facebook pixel, one of its powerful tools is it knows who went to your site, and it keeps advertising to them until, and that second and that third and that fourth follow up is usually when you actually get the bookings. So I've really started to hone in and just try to get as much traffic as I can to my sites, and I'll use A/B testing, which is where I may change one. I use the same similar copy on my ads, but I change one photo maybe to see like, okay, this photo does better. Or I keep the same photo and I change the wording under the headline to see, okay, this headline does better and this photo does better. And then you're starting to maximize how much you spend, but you're also able to target all those people that are more likely to book because they already visited your site, they thought about it, and they actively spent time. And now when you send them another ad, over the week or whatever it does, then they're like, oh, maybe I do need to book that. It keeps popping up to me. And so that's kind of where some of my basis for remarketing and retargeting, they're kind of similar, but kind of not at the same time. And Logify's made that really, really easy for me. And just studying how some of these different algorithms work and how the Facebook pixel works has really helped me to understand how I can capture those when they come back to me.
So I guess from the outside looking in, everything you said is extremely actionable and you gave great tips on how to learn. But what do you think is some advice for people who are just, everything you said just worried them? Like, oh my goodness, pixels, codes, what is he talking about? I know I can go to Logify. I'll figure that out. So what do you think someone who's like that, what do you think is the first place or maybe the best place for them to start marketing their glamping site if a lot of the technical stuff scares them or worries them or they don't know about it?
So I highly recommend. I've pretty much advertised on all types of, especially with my background. I've done all types of marketing and my past businesses, but in this business, I pretty much tried all different ones so far. And even if it is intimidating, by far my biggest return has been on Facebook ads. And so
Mhm.
I highly, and even with the pixel part, like it's something I learned later on, and you don't have to understand the pixel or the code now to even start learning the basics of ads and learn why, learning sales copy and some small things. I would highly recommend. There's tons of free Facebook courses. There's tons of free Facebook ad YouTube courses, and you don't have to be an expert at all. I'm far from an expert. I know quite a bit because I've been doing it a long time. But even before, when I ran campaigns for stuff, I was just kind of learning as I went. I would start, they call it small batch testing. So
Mhm.
when you start particularly, and I'm sure I'm tapping into your digital marketing
Yeah.
roots right now. So when you start, you don't need to blow your budget. If you have $1,000 marketing budget, you don't need to spend like, all right, I'm gonna spend $1,000 today on my Facebook ads. You should probably, and if you don't know much, you should probably spend $20 or $30, like very, very small amounts of money. So that way you're going to mess up your ads. You'll have some ads that do terrible, like don't get much response. That's why you start with real small amounts of money based off your budget, and you're able to learn and hone in on it. Advertising, especially marketing like this, there's no clear cut thing that you should be like who you're advertising to and what kind of copy you should have. Advertising and sales is you're tweaking stuff always. You go in and check your percentages like, okay, I don't think this one works, but my advice, actionable without a doubt, if you're looking to, besides just slapping it up, getting it on Airbnb, making sure your guest experience and all that is right, the Glamping 102 is I would
Mhm.
take a small Facebook ads course. Like I wouldn't worry about TikTok ads. I wouldn't really worry about Google ads. And the thing about Facebook is, it intertwines with Instagram. So that, you can learn a little bit of both at the same time, but take some
Mhm.
basic level Facebook ad marketing, uh, like classes or something. There's tons of free ones. And that without a doubt will be some of the best investment you can spend with your time. Because the ROI I've gotten on my Facebook ads is blowing all others to the water. I thought TikTok ads were going to be kind of my bread and butter of things. And I ran some different campaigns, tried some, got some decent success, but compared to how much money I'm spending on TikTok versus Facebook and the results I'm getting, I can just tell they're not even. I didn't expect that from what I know about marketing and what I know about the demographic of who I'm trying to capture. And Facebook is not a dead dinosaur, or meta or whatever
Mhm.
they're called. People think that it's a dying breed, and I've had a ton of success on there, and so I would highly recommend taking some small class and dedicating a little time, because that it will save you a tremendous amount of headache going forward when you're actually trying to really grow this business.
Yeah, and I'll put a link in the description to some cool YouTube videos that I have no affiliation with, but I think they're just great starting points for people to learn about those types
Nice.
of things. And you said something a little while ago, though, that I want to go back to. And you said that people have already stayed at your dome and they've already rebooked. I think that's a lot of people's worries. They're nervous, like, there's only so many people in this region. Once, out of all of the people in this region, only 10% would want to stay in my dome. And once they stay once, they'll never come back again. And you were able to get what I think is the holy grail. Just again, I don't want to get too much into marketing, but it's so much, it's so much cheaper to keep a customer than it is to bring in a new one. So can you let us know how you were able to do that? How you were able to essentially bring people into your funnel? Oh God, I got to stop using technical terms. You're taking me back.
No, me too.
How you were able to bring people into your funnel or into your ecosystem. They stayed at your glam site. You were able to convert them, and then you were able to bring them back. Can you just tell us how you were doing that? Was it emails? Was it the coupon code that you said that you send out after people stay? Yep. How do we do that? Teach us how we can get people to repeatedly come back to our Glamp site.
So I think the main thing, and I'm sure you would agree with this as well, is you have to provide the guest experience while they're there is the main thing. So all your codes and everything you send afterwards doesn't matter to them if they don't extremely enjoy their time. So I probably went above and beyond in these first few months to make sure guests, have everything they need. I always leave like a small welcome basket. It's nothing major, just a couple little snacks, some makeup wipes, a toothbrush, like the toothbrush packets, things that a hotel would provide. I know Airbnb people, they have this weird thought that Airbnbs in particular are supposed to equal hotels, which they're definitely not the same. But I also want to provide the same style of amenities when I can. So I'm very good about my response time with guests. I try to handle every question and situation that I know would come up with check-in. I want the guest experience to be absolutely as perfect as I possibly can, even though it doesn't always come out that way. There was a guest one time that stayed and a power storm or a storm came and knocked out some of the power. I happened to be in the area, so it worked out fine, but I brought them a few extra snacks. I had a DVD player, because the power ended up coming back on, but they couldn't enjoy some of the outdoor amenities. And so I went above and beyond. I told them how to set up the projector screen inside. I showed them like where the DVD player was. I walked them through a few things. I dropped off a few more snacks, just small things like that. But it made a tremendous amount. It made a tremendous effect on the guests because they realized how hospitable we were and how much we cared about our guests. I could go on for hours about setting up the guest experience, but you need to make it as comfortable as possible for the guest. That is going to be your key to rebooking, because after you get done with all that and they love their stay, you send them you tell them how thankful you are. I like little personalized touches too. Another example for how I provide a really good guest experience is I always, in my first message, that's an automatic message to guests. One of my first questions in there, I don't ask a lot of questions, but I think I asked two questions. Is like, let us know if you need anything in particular in your stay, and also, are you celebrating anything special? That has gone a long way, because then now you're starting to dive into why people are coming to book with you. You're really starting to tap into the personalization of it. So so for example, I've had tons of anniversaries. By far, my most booked thing is anniversaries. And so I always ask that, and most people are pretty proud to tell you, like, hey, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary, our 11th anniversary. Always leave a card on, make sure and note it or tell my cleaners, leave a card saying happy anniversary. We may give them a small, sunflowers, couple bucks here and there. We may, put a little dessert for, from the local bakery. That's $3 like small things like that, that you're like, oh, if you run this business where you're only thinking numbers, like, I can't give them a $3 piece of cake. That's running my bottom line. You're gonna be so ran over by a lot of these people and just the business side of it, that you'll forget how to really treat your guest and where they're going to come back and bring you even more money in that word of mouth. So we do small things like that. We'll write their name or we have a little chalkboard that it doubles, it covers my electrical panel, but then we'll write like, hey, welcome, Tim, and, welcome to y'all's anniversary. Like we're happy for y'all here. All those little small features always help the guest experience. And then once they've had a great stay, we've done everything we can to go above and beyond. We'll send them an email saying, hey, could you review us? We really appreciate it. All those things a day later. But then that discount code comes about 14 days later or so, when they're, you're a couple weeks out. So they've kind of, they're already back to reality. So they're already thinking like, dang, I really want to go back out there. You don't want to send it immediately, because they're still running off the high of, being there, and they're not like, oh, like, especially if they spend a decent amount of money with you, they're not going to be immediately like, oh, let me go spend some more money and all these things. You need to catch them when they're back to reality of life. And then they're already starting to think like, man, I would love to get away again. So I sent them that code, 2 weeks later. It's only 10%, which to them is a lot. To me, it's a lot, but it's also getting them back in, knowing they're already a good guest too. Like, I've only had one bad guest, to be honest with you. They smoked inside the unit. I have a damage deposit. One thing about Logify that's really cool is they do collect damage deposits for you, which is one of the few ones that I saw being an option for people. And so with that, after we send them that discount code, if they were great guests, they start to feel something called a reciprocity effect, where I gave them something. Now they could feel a little bit indebted to me, and they didn't ask for it. And that's the thing, is there's some YouTube people that teach like, oh, no discounts. I'm not giving any discounts. It's a little different when a guest asks you for a discount versus when you provide one just out of nowhere to them, So me providing that discount code to them, they're like, man, this, like, I feel like I need to use that code. Then they feel a little bit of a sense of urgency, like maybe we should book again soon, because I don't know if this 10% discount code will work. And you start to get in their head at the right time when it's a few weeks later. Just because I'm able to capture their information, I could send another email if they had never rebooked. 2 months later, I could send another email. I could go through my database, click of a button in MailChimp, and send out to everybody that stayed, in the past few months, like, hey, we're running a special this weekend. for all our amazing guests. I love calling them family and things like that. People love that sense of being a part of a community of things. So I'll say, hey, here's our family and friend discount code for being an amazing guest. Here's 15% off on a 3-day stay. Or, you analyze your numbers, because I don't have a whole lot of 3-night bookings. So I've been trying to mostly 2 nights and a lot of 1 nights, but a lot of 2 nights as well on the weekends. But I've been trying to push to get to that 3-night stays. So we're offering 10% discount codes on a 3-night stay through here, or, book 3 nights, get the 4th night free. We've tried different ones, and the 10% to 15% code has worked really, really well. But a lot of that comes because we laid out that guest experience to begin with. They had an amazing time. We did everything we could to make sure that their whole stay there was as absolutely perfect as we could make it, even when small things come up that are out of everybody's control.
And you also said that it's a friends and family code, so they can send it to other people. So you essentially are converting them. Now they work for you. They're saying, I stayed at this amazing dome and it's awesome. You should go, and telling their friends about it. Then they say, you know what? Here's a little bit of social clout for me. I don't only have to tell you about this. I could say, hey, here, I'll help you out. You can take my 10% code and you can stay there cheaper than I.
Yep. 100%. So people love that kind of wording, and it's the same thing. Like, word of mouth, and even as you start your Glamp site, one thing that kind of comes up is people are like, "Has anybody stayed there?" Like, they want that social proof, and I also ask guests for if they have photos, tag us in them, or if they want to send any, we'll post them on our Instagram a lot, and they get really good response because people want to see people at your place. Like my girlfriend she has a marketing major, but she works for actually downtown Houston doing a lot of big things. And one thing that their research came about was that photos without people in it never do as well in converting people to get to that place. So you can take all the beautiful photos you want, and there's places for those too, like having outstanding photos that need to be top notch that you don't have people in. But if you notice, a lot of the bigger properties and things, a lot of their videos have people, doing the activities, or they're sitting there by the campfire, or they're in the dome, or that triggers people's minds. Like, oh, actually, they'll put themselves there, as opposed to videos and photos without people in it. So that's one thing. So we always, are encourage people to send their photos, and when they post it online, they're doing the work for us as well. Like, we have a place you can scan social media and tag us, but if they put it online, then they're going out and telling all their family and friends without you even having to tell them, and you don't have to spend that extra marketing money to reach them, and that's been a pretty big key to us. And we're hoping to even continuously push that as we go forward, working with different people and working with different guests that really like giving that social currency out there,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you talked about social media, and that's not a paid campaign and everything that we were talking about before. I just want to cut that off for people who are following along and maybe are learning about marketing right now. So you talked about organic social. Can you tell us where that lies in your entire marketing scheme right now? How often do you post? How serious do you post? Is it something that you do just to make sure that you have a presence, or is it something that you are actively pushing?
So I'm pretty strong into social media because of my background. I've always, I personally feel like I'm very good with the platforms, understanding them, because I've built different artist platforms for them and things. So how I've kind of operated, I don't post every day, but I try to get at least 4 to 5 posts a week. I post on, I usually, how I've seen kind of things go and just how trends have kind of gone. I usually post on TikTok, find out something that works within that realm, see how the numbers do on there, and then after a day or two, I'll repurpose that to go onto Facebook and Instagram. Less work for me, and I usually, TikTok, how it's kind of built, you can post 2 or 3 or 4 times on that day, and it doesn't really affect your algorithm too much, or one video could do worse or better. But Instagram and Facebook, they want you to post more, but usually if you post more than 1 time a day on Instagram or Facebook, then you're probably not going to get anywhere the amount of reach you want. So I post them on TikTok, find out which ones perform better that day, and then I'll repurpose the best ones onto Instagram and Facebook. But Instagram and Facebook does better with photos, and photos are starting to make a really big comeback on Instagram as well, where how they actually push them. They were really trying to compete with TikTok for a while, but now they've kind of realized where they're actually at, and their photos actually do really well. So I try to post at least 4 to 5 times a week on Instagram and Facebook. I always make sure one thing about social media is even if you have a small platform or following, you need to engage with the audience though that does comment or does say something or repost. Some people will like, they may have a couple hundred followers and they get a couple comments and they never answer them, and that's like you're just allowing guests to come into your room and talk to you, and then you're not answering, and they spent the time coming to talk to you, and then you just decided like, oh, I don't need to say anything like that. But that those actual couple answers, those people are already invested in your site. They've spent the time commenting on your social media posts. You need to give them that time back, especially when you're building it up slowly, of answering their social media posts or answering their questions and things like that. That will make them feel more comfortable with booking, make them feel like there's a real person behind this glamp site, and different abilities like that. But without a doubt, I would say the biggest key, and it took me trying with different people. I probably gained like 10 to 15,000 followers in the last month on social media, because I've had a couple influencers come stay. I had one I paid $550 for her. She has a couple like 200,000 in Houston. She's more of a food blogger in Houston, but she does travel things. I knew that this was my market I wanted to touch. She's really, really impactful in the Houston area. For $550, we did a giveaway, which I highly recommend for sites that are starting to come up, because the giveaway, she's been all over country, all over Texas, and I think we were her third high. It almost hit a million plays on her Instagram, which is her third highest one. But a lot of it was because of that giveaway. People were sharing, people were tagging. She made a really good video, and that grew our social presence a lot, between our own organic marketing where we're just posting. But then we also had a couple smaller influencers that we didn't pay. That we have a lot of people hitting us up all the time, like, "Hey, we want to come stay at your place. We'll trade you content for this." And some of them, you have to. There's a site called socialblade.com that you can check some of these influencers like actual numbers to see like what kind of response they actually get, how much feedback and engagement. We allowed a few free stays. One person, we told him like, "Hey, we're starting now to tell influencers, hey, if you pay our cleaning fee like a Monday through Wednesday when we're usually not booked, we'll let you come and stay for the night. You can put content up, do all those things, tag us in it, and we'll repurpose it." We've had at least 3 of those stays now where they come. One of them, we didn't make them charge a cleaning fee, but I started doing that after, just because, for my own do that as well. Those 3 smaller influencers, they only had a couple thousand followers, nothing major. All of their videos have been doing, 20,000 here, 30,000 views here. And that's just as good as paying to put it on, Facebook ads and all these things. And then you have people in this footage, and they want to, they're trying to do really well with their platform too. So, they're taking videos that you would pay somebody to do normally, them roasting s'mores and them hanging out by the hot tub. You can put that content on your page. So you're not having to go pay a film company to bring actors out and other things like that. Well, I didn't necessarily get burned by an influencer, but I had some influencers decline coming to my site, saying it wasn't ready, and and one of them was like, "I don't really like your space theme," and other things like that. And it was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I say that so people don't get discouraged if they reach out to some influencers and they don't respond, or they are kind of negative about their site. I had the same thing, but I had an influencer that agreed to it, and it ended up being one of her best performing videos she has had. So don't get discouraged if you do reach out to some different influencers, or you're trying to figure out your path with that, because not all the people are going to be, you're not going to be the target for how they want to build their business, and they may not be the target demographic that you're looking for as well. So I did have that happen. I didn't necessarily get burned, but I don't want people to not get discouraged if they reach out to a few people and then they just don't get the response that they want from it. Because I had the similar situation, but working with free influencers and the mid-level paid ones definitely was one of the biggest returns I had besides Facebook ads. Those two things definitely helped.
Can you give us the playbook? Like, how do you, I mean, it's pretty easy to find influencers, you know, just go on social media, dig around, use hashtags for your local area if you need to like really get pushed in one direction. But then when you slide in their DMs, sup, I'm Garrett. Like, how do you start the conversation?
Yeah, so I try to prefer, approach it. I do know like pictures always lead the best, and I have some really good pictures of my dome. So I pretty much say, hey, my name's Garrett. I run a glamping site. Give them a quick, synopsis. I don't want to be. I usually am not trying to be too wordy. I really just give them a quick idea of what I'm looking for. Ask them if they want, depending on the level, like how many followers they have, kind of determines the level of sorts. That's usually when I decide on like, hey, do y'all want to collaborate if they're smaller, or if I know they're going to charge me, just because they're a bigger influencer, I will say like, hey, how do you usually make this happen? How can we work together? I've had bigger influencers that I didn't think were going to do it for free, and they ended up doing it for free just because I worded it that way. Like, how can we work together? Because that kind of has a double meaning of like, I'm willing to pay you, but is there something like, can I just offer you the free stay and we're good that way? And usually when you're offering things, and if you're the first one to offer something like, hey, I have $1,000 for you if you want to come, they may have only charged you 500, and then you laid that out before they were even willing to, kind of talk business with them. So I do, but I'll go search hashtags, and a lot of the food bloggers in your area probably like doing travel stuff too. And also the other thing I found is that they also follow a lot of like their following count. If you go into Instagram and you're looking at who they're following, they probably follow a lot of other influencers that are good options for you too, or places that, because they want to see where other people are going. And like the one that I found, that the biggest one that got me some of my most bookings, I believe, I found her from another lady that I was talking to, because I went into her followers and I was like, oh, this lady looks like she does some cool stuff. Let me reach out to her. And so they usually run in similar circles, and you'll see them commenting on each other's posts. And I just reached out to a lot of people and got numbers. And I would, if they were going to charge me, I would get like, okay, this is your rate. I would go on to socialblade.com. I would type in their Instagram handle and see what kind of engagement they get first. Okay, this person wants $1,000, but they're getting a 20% engagement rate, or, whatever in numbers are. This person wanted 500. They have a little bit less followers, but their engagement rate is double the other person. And you kind of crunch the numbers that way, and you can skip out paying some higher dollar ones when you could get the same amount of return with a smaller level influencer, just because they get that engagement that you're actually looking for. The engagement rate is the main critical piece working with influencers. They can have followers all day. They could have bought the followers. They could have went viral on one post that, just did a massive amount of numbers, and they gained a ton of followers, but it's not necessarily your demographic that is most of their followers. So that's kind of where you have to do a little bit of research, especially when you start spending the money with them. If you're looking for smaller level, like, influencers that you can just trade a stay for, you can take a couple of risks, because most of the time I let them come through Monday through Wednesday, because I'll have bookings here and there, but most of the time Monday through Wednesday is a pretty slow part from my personal operation. I'll have some last minute bookings come through, but usually if I block off that one night for an influencer, you'll make that money back, especially if they're good with making content and helping you be able to bring some extra eyes to your place.
This has been a really good convo. I think we've touched on so many points. I think people should really save this video, rewatch it, start their glamping business, watch it again, start their marketing, like just always come back to it, because I think you really gave us a lot of info. And I just thank you so much for also your candor. You're awesome to chat with, and your channel's awesome. That's going to be linked in the description as well. So people want to learn more from you, they can continue to keep learning from Garrett and everything he's got going on in the link in the description.